Hey there, everyone. I hope you're doing well today. It is Wednesday, January 30th, 2019, one day before my 35th birthday. Man, I'm getting kind of old and I can feel it in my knees, especially with it being freezing cold outside. But my name is Raphael Garcia, and this is the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. It's episode 10, and we're here to talk about a couple of different topics within the WWE, such as looking back at the Royal Rumble that occurred this past Sunday and talking about the feud between Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey. We're going to talk about both of those things. Usually we kind of stick to one topic, but wanted to hit both of them today to because I have a lot of thoughts about everything that went down this past weekend. But before we get into that, I want to be sure to ask you to like and share our content. You can always subscribe to our channel through YouTube to catch everything that I do here every Wednesday, as well as catch my weekly MMA podcast with Shawn Humes, which is every Thursday at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we talk everything from the world of mixed martial arts. He was not with me last week, but I'm sure he'll be back this week, and we have quite a bit to catch up on. So be sure to catch us tomorrow night. But tonight, as always, I'm going to talk about wrestling, and like I said, there's quite a bit to talk about, and I want to jump right into the conversation about Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey, about why this is such an important feud and why is it kicking off on such a high note, which is especially important as we head into the road to WrestleMania. But as we saw, whoever, and if you haven't been following for on the last few months, you had to be under a rock to not recognize what was going to happen on Sunday. That there's been a path that both Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey have been on toward one another, and it's definitely occurred very organically. Because on one side, it's been a year since Rousey came into WWE, walking into the 2018 Royal Rumble and awkwardly pointing at the WrestleMania sign, while Charlotte, Oscar, and Alexa Bliss were standing in the ring. And then over on SmackDown, you had Becky Lynch, who was floundering at the time, but has organically risen to be the most popular individual on the WWE roster, and that's regardless of sex and gender. She is the most over individual across the board. If you need any inclination of that, go over to the WWE YouTube channel, where majority of the segments that she's in and the clips that she's in have garnered over 1 million views, which is rare for their platform. And listen back to the pop she received when she appeared on this past Monday Night Raw, where she faced off with Ronda Rousey. We're going to talk about that specifically. But before we go into their face off, let's take a step back and talk about the match that Rousey had with Becky, and also the match that she had with Sasha, because those are two. There were very good matches back to back on Sunday and Monday, and it goes to show that Rousey. I mean, she's excelled in the first year of her professional wrestling career. I'm not sure how long it's going to continue. There's rumors about her walking away after WrestleMania this April, which she has every right to do. We're not going to talk about the reasons why. If she decides to leave, she decides to leave. That's up to her. But she has shown an ability to put on great matches. I mean, you can't really say anything about the matches she's had. She's looked good against Nia Jax, Alexa Bliss. She looked exceptionally good against Sasha Banks and Bailey on Monday. So in the ring, in between the ropes from bell to bell, she's definitely looking good. She can go and she gets the job done there. But as a character, that's where a lot of the questions are hitting, because she just awkward is the first word that comes to mind, but disingenuous is probably a stronger example of the word. And as someone who's covered Rousey, as an MMA competitor, the character that we see every week. Yes, I understand that she loves wrestling. Yes, I understand that she's a mark. Like, she's a big fan of the industry. We've seen her at regular indie shows like Bola and PWG out there marking out with the fans. So she does that, which is totally okay. But seeing that translate into the ring when she has the microphone in her hands just does not work for me. And that's the kind of the criticism that she's getting across the board. You saw on Monday where she kind of had the smile and grin on her face as the fans were booing her out of the ring, booing her out of the building, and you could tell it was getting to her, especially if you know how she reacted to people and fans during her MMA run when she started getting highly criticized there. It, while she did a good job kind of playing it off, when she was in the ring by herself talking, it was just totally, it was a bad look. It was a bad look for her, and it made her look uh, amateurish. When you couple this with the promo that she did last week, the week before, backstage, it was equally as bad. The one on Monday was worse than the one 2 weeks ago, where she was I would say probably forgetting her lines and stuttering and stammering over some of the things that she would have to say. And I get it; it's difficult to perform live television in front of thousands of fans. I think there were 40 some odd thousand people there on Sunday. Definitely thousands of people there on Monday, and millions of people watching around the world. So I understand how difficult it is to remember your lines or perform a promo from start to finish with all these people watching. Totally get it, totally understand it. But other individuals do this, and this is not Rousey's first time being the center of attention, which is what she is right now on the Raw roster. So, what made this whole moment on Monday was when Becky Lynch's music hit. You can see the crowd's reaction, and that was something special. She's getting reactions that are akin to when you hear the glass break for Stone Cold Steve Austin, or when you hear the Rock's intro music hit. She's getting pops that are very well on par with what they do each time they pop back up into professional wrestling. That she's here, and she's here to definitely stay. Their interaction was definitely it was very different. It completely switched the tone of that segment, because even Rousey was able to feed off of Becky Lynch's poise during that time and kind of gather herself in a way that allowed her to deliver what she had to say with such emotion and intensity that it came off very believable. It came off as if this is a real rivalry between the two. And we know that it's not. We know that this is not make believe, but this is scripted. These are two individuals who are not only athletes but also acting, who are sports entertainment performers. Let's call them that. But watching this segment, if these two women keep this storyline hot and WWE Creative keeps the storyline hot from now through April 7th or whatever that is, there's no reason why on God's green earth they should not headline WrestleMania. I don't care whatever Brock Lesnar and Seth Rollins do between now and then will not be as hot and as exciting as these two women and the feud that they have between them, between the two. And as much as I love Charlotte, I'm a fan of hers. I think she's great. I mean, she looked fantastic in the Royal Rumble on Sunday. The minute her music hit, I felt like business was about to pick up, because I wasn't pleased with what I saw with the Rumble from the start of the Rumble all the way up to when she came in. That's when shit got real. But even as special as she is, I do not think that there's a need to add her to this match. It should be a one-on-one contest between Lynch and between Lynch and Rousey, and that's it. Between now and then, since the two women are on separate shows, and if they want to keep them separate because they do have two pay-per-views between now and WrestleMania, I think that having Lynch and Charlotte go back and forth helps. I'm not so sure what you're going to do with Rousey on Raw, but Charlotte does not need to be added to this equation. If anything, my opinion, if they really want to get to this narrative between the four horsewomen of NXT or WWE and the four horsewomen of MMA, if they really want to get to that narrative, then having Charlotte and Becky feud on SmackDown while introducing Shayna and Jessamine Duke and Marina Shafir on that show would help us get to that narrative, because it causes some cohesion between the storyline between the 8 women involved. Right now, it seems like it's just Ronda against Sasha, Bailey, Charlotte, and Becky. And if my opinion, if I was booking the situation right now, I would definitely look at a way where we can get Charlotte, Sasha, and Bailey against Shayna, Jessamine, and Shayna, Jessamine, and who's the Marina Shafir. That could be a segment within its own self on WrestleMania. But as it stands right now, Becky and Rousey are ahead above everyone else, and they should not be watered down by the inclusion of anyone else in that match. Period. I think that what they are doing is not only revolutionizing the way women are looked at in the WWE right now, but it's causing an excitement around the product that I don't think any other storyline could really do right now. Brock Lesnar doesn't even do that, even though he pops up, comes and goes, and yeah, he's a ratings bump. I don't think that people don't care about him as much as they do this storyline right now, and I think that that's what's most important, and I think that that's what that they need to stand around and leverage as the main event heading into WrestleMania in April, because nothing else is a selling point to me right now. I don't care. Like, definitely don't care about the tag team titles. We know they're not doing anything with the mid card belts, and yes, Seth and Brock is important because it's probably going to be the moment where they get the title off of Brock and get it back onto TV regularly. But that doesn't hold a candle. Seth doesn't hold a candle to what Becky and Ronda are doing right now, and I think that needs to be recognized. They need to be rewarded for their hard work by allowing them to main event the biggest pay-per-view in wrestling this year. So as I'm watching Becky and Ronda continue to unfold, what I'm looking forward to the most is how do they keep this situation hot. I think that the 2 women are playing the perfect characters that they are right now. For Ronda's sake, I don't believe that Ronda needs to necessarily be the face, and Becky doesn't need to be the heel. They need to play the roles that they're in right now, because trying to pigeonhole them into the face or the heel position is going to, I don't want to say water down the feud. It just doesn't make it as believable as it is right now. Nothing needs to change. Let these 2 women do what they're doing right now, and let the outcome be what the outcome is. Becky Lynch is not the heel. Ronda Rousey certainly isn't the face, because you can tell by the way the fans are slowly but surely turning on her. So, like, let's continue to ride that out, and let's see what they do, because as I say, I think it's going to be something special. I think it's going to be a moment that we all need to recognize that is just pretty amazing. It's going to be amazing to watch. And I personally do believe that they have every ability in them to provide a match that lives up to this hype and puts them in a position, elevates them in a position that you're going to want to see what's next. And I personally can't wait. I'm going to be there this year. And this is, to me, you can't say that this is the epitome of women's wrestling, because that's not the right way to look at it. This is the epitome of wrestling, period. This is probably the hottest storyline I've seen in wrestling since. I can't really remember. And I can't think of something that's had me this excited about a WrestleMania or about wrestling in a very long time. And that kind of tells you how big this story really is. And it's women that's elevating this story to the forefront. And probably the most interesting thing is that it's continued to occur organically. Even when WWE Creative tried to water it down, per se, by having Becky look like a goof at some point in time, it hasn't worked. She's continued to excel, continued to build herself up as that main event character that she is, as that main event draw and I'm down for the ride from start to finish. So if it'll be interesting to see what the ratings were from this past Monday. I haven't seen them come out anywhere, especially for that segment because they stole the show and they continuously steal the show. And a part of that is the elevation of Becky Lynch to the main event position. So let me take a sip of water for it real quick. Give me a second. I want to segue from talking about Lynch and Rousey and focus on the Royal Rumble from this past Sunday. We had two Rumbles. We had the men's and we had the women's event. And I think that across the board, the card was laid out perfectly. I'm not going to kind of go into a recap about that. I want to focus specifically on the two Rumbles. And I wrote about this for Daily DDT. I think it came out yesterday when the piece came out. What's today? Today's Wednesday. Monday or yesterday, I believe. But something I noticed about this, and it's been an interesting complaint. I've seen an interesting complaint about the Rumble this year where people were upset that there weren't a lot of legends called. There weren't a lot of surprise entrants that in the form of people from yesteryear or I hate to use the term legends, but people from earlier generations in wrestling. In fact, if you look at the 60 people that were included in both the men's, across the men's and the women's event, only Jeff Jarrett was someone who could be considered a legend. He's the only individual that was a surprise entrant that was a legend. And as we heard, he's been brought back as a producer along with Shane Helms and Sanjay Dutt and Abyss. I believe they've all gotten jobs this past week and work backstage now. Jeff Jarrett has been actually on TV because he's in that storyline with Elias, but he was the only individual from a previous generation that was brought back for the show on Sunday, and a lot of people were upset with that. Me personally, though, I look at the other way. I look at the other side of that coin, where instead of legends, we got names like we got Johnny Gargano, we got Mustafa Ali, we got Pete Dunne, Andrade Almas, Aleister Black on the men's side. Then on the women's side, we got Lacey Evans. We had Xia Li, Kairi Sane, Candice LeRae, Casey Catanzaro, Rhea Ripley, Io Shirai, as all individuals who were coming from minor, I use minor in air quote brands, to this event. I think that was what 12 in total. I believe I may have counted, and that was more important to me because it showed that WWE is investing in their future talent. I mean, if we look at that list of names, let me see. Johnny Gargano, maybe is he over 30? Yes, Gargano is 31. Aleister Black, I believe, is over 30 as well. Yeah, he's 33. I don't think Andrade is 29, and he's already on the main card. How old is Mustafa Ali? Mustafa Ali is 32. So on the men's side, yeah, these individuals were. I mean, they're of that age where it's kind of different from men. They're of that age where they're in their quote unquote prime. They're either really young or they're in their prime. I mean, Pete Dunne is 25 years old. On the women's side, everyone that I see Candice LeRae is over 30. Candice LeRae is 33. Let me look at, so Kairi Sane is, this may completely blow up my hypothesis here, but Kairi Sane is 30. Io Shirai is 28. I know Casey is under 25. Rhea Ripley is 22, I believe. Casey's 29, excuse me. Rhea Ripley is 22, and then there was Xylee, and she doesn't have a page, but a lot of the talent that was featured in the Rumble were faces that were about the future rather than faces from the past. The first women's Rumble leaned on a lot of older talent to create that excitement about we don't know who was going to come back and who was going to come through that curtain, which I understand, which is a big allure of the Rumble. But in reality, none of those individuals have an opportunity to win the event. We cannot expect any surprise. Like the surprise of those legends, the surprise of those veterans are just them being there. There isn't. No one expects any of them to win the event. With the younger with the younger individuals, the lesser known wrestlers, not only are they a surprise entrant, but there's also a place of will the WWE invest in them and allow them to get the victory? This year we didn't see that, but I could definitely see that in the future with someone like a Pete Dunne or an Almas wins a men's Royal Rumble. Rhea Ripley, man, she is going to be a star, and she eliminated 3 people on Sunday, other than Charlotte. Charlotte's the only one that eliminated more. Charlotte eliminated more. Ruby Riott eliminated 3, as well as did Bayley and Nia Jax. On the men's side, I mean, that's almost as many as any of the men. Seth Rollins eliminated 3, Drew McIntyre 4, and Braun Strowman 5. No one else did any more than that, which I think is important because Rhea, I've ever since NXT UK takeover, I'm more invested in her. Casey Catanzaro, she's not my type of wrestler. I think she's going to be like one of those small characters that are booked in such a way. But I see some allure in her because she has attraction because she was coming over from American Ninja Warrior. I love the inclusion of Io, Zai, and Kairi Sane. I love all 3 of those women wrestlers there. So I think that there is a space where we have to recognize that we're going from a different point in time with the Rumble, and and instead of using it as an opportunity to look back, I think we're at a position now where we're going to begin looking forward. And I think that that's something that we see more and more as Triple H takes more of a leadership position in the organization, because he sees the importance of looking forward and building around new stars. No one's going to be around forever. He can't go like he used to go back in the day. Shawn can't go like he used to go back in the day. The Undertaker can't do it. Kane is out doing something else. The Big Show can't do it. Kurt Angle clearly can't. Stone Cold's not walking back through that door. The Rock is out doing his thing. Like, none of these guys are coming back, and no one currently on the roster is translating into as big of stars as some of those men were. Same thing on the women's side. Trish Stratus isn't walking back through that door. Sable isn't walking back through that door. They're out doing their own thing. They're probably the 2 biggest women stars that we've ever seen in this industry. None of them are coming back. So the organization needs to begin leveraging some of these smaller names, or not smaller names, some of these younger names to build them into stars. I was completely surprised with the pop that Alexa Bliss got, because this was her first time stepping back into the ring in 4 or 5 months, because she's been dealing with those concussion issues. But seeing her come back, she looked good in the ring. I mean, you can't really hate on the way she's grown since being brought up from NXT. She's continued to look better, and she's continued to improve along the way. Let's see who else. So that is my biggest takeaway from the Rumble on Sunday. I enjoyed the show. The other matches, the tag team matches were crap. I don't like Shane McMahon consistently inserting himself into storylines as if he's a fantastic wrestler or something like that, or if he should take that. He's taking a spot away from someone else that can use that elevation, and The Miz could be doing something else as well. In my opinion, The Miz and Daniel Bryan need to be involved in some type of of program right now because that's the storyline that we've been waiting to see. But that's another conversation for another day. And the other tag team titles, the Raw tag team titles, yeah, but there isn't any point of them almost being like those two belts need to be combined, and there needs to be one champion on both shows. Intercontinental champion wasn't the IC title wasn't defended at all. The US title was defended on the pre-show with Rusev losing the belt to Shinsuke Nakamura, but that was more of a setup for Bailey and what she did later. So there was that. But I am happy to see that Ron Killings, R-Truth, got the belt on Monday. I feel like, or Tuesday, because I feel like that's a testament of his longevity. But that's another conversation there. Something else I wanted to talk about too, because this is interesting, because this conversation was going on across social media this past week as well after the Rumble, is that if you look at the combined times of the men of color who were part of the Rumble, very like look at this. Biggie lasted for 6 minutes, African American male. Jinder Mahal lasted for 30 seconds. Titus O'Neil lasted for 5 seconds. Kofi Kingston lasted for 8 minutes and 53 seconds. No Way Jose lasted for 2 seconds. Xavier Woods lasted for 3 seconds. Apollo Crews lasted for 5 minutes and 47 seconds. Shelton Benjamin lasted for 9 minutes and 21 seconds. Now, what's funny about that is Michael Cole actually got Apollo and Shelton mixed up just because they were like, he clearly called Apollo Shelton when they just both happened to be in the ring together. So there's that. And let's see, Bobby Lashley lasted for 13 seconds. So there's almost a trend that is like, well, why are the men of color all being eliminated quickly and being done so in a way that's almost like a comedic effort? I mean, Andrade lasted for 22 minutes. Rey Mysterio was in there for 12, 30, and who else beyond that? Mustafa Ali was in there for half an hour. So you do have some instances where it's different, but the African American, the black men, were almost wholeheartedly a joke for the Rumble. None of them lasted more than 10 minutes. None of them lasted more than 10 minutes, and that's telling to me. Then on the other side of it, the women, you had Naomi, who was in the event for less than 2 minutes before she was eliminated by Mandy Rose, who was Mandy was in there for 25 minutes. Mandy was already eliminated before she eliminated Naomi, which furthers that atrocious storyline. But here it is that Naomi, a two-time champion, she falls into that joke category that seems to only be happening to African American wrestlers. So that's something that is almost worth me writing a piece about it. Maybe I'll do that during the week, but that's kind of been brought out. Sean Ross Sapp over at Fightful.com pointed it out, and a couple of other people who I interact with across wrestling social media pointed that out as well too. It's pretty intriguing to see. It's pretty interesting to kind of point out there. But overall, I was pleased with the Rumble on Sunday. I think it set up some pretty interesting storylines. I'm looking forward to seeing what's next. Becky and Rousey deserve to be the main event slot. They deserve to be the focus. They deserve to be the focus because they're the most important storyline going on in professional wrestling right now. I also kind of want to touch on, we've seen news that Dean Ambrose is no longer with the organization. Well, he's asked for his release and he will be granted. So after April, Hideo Itami, also known as Kenta, has asked for his release and has supposedly been granted. So they're losing guys who are underutilized or not properly utilized. At least that's the idea. At least that's the idea for most people. So it'll be interesting to see. A lot of people are pointing towards AEW, the emergence of AEW and what they're doing from a contract standpoint as the reason why this is happening. We'll see if that's the case. I mean, AEW still hasn't even had a show, and people are talking about them as if they're guys with the wrestling. So we'll see what happens in the near future. But I just wanted to kind of point out those two stories that are developing over the last 2 days, and we'll continue to watch them over the next few weeks as well. But with that in mind, I wanted to go ahead and close out this episode of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Again, I appreciate everyone who's taken the time to listen to our content. We're slowly growing. I want to say episode 8 was our most listened to episode, so I appreciate that. Please continue to like and share our content. You can share it on whatever social media platform you would like. Please subscribe. So I'm definitely trying to grow the subscriber base of this YouTube channel in 2019. I think that's probably one of my more important goals. So please subscribe and so you can catch our content on a daily basis. But with that in mind, you can follow us at MMA Ratings Net on Instagram and Twitter. That's where to find our main content there. Also, also go to MMAratings.net to rate the most recent MMA fights if you want to kind of catch up with that and tell us what you thought of the fights as they unfold each and every week. And you can catch my work at rgarcia_sports. You can catch me there. You can catch Schwan Humes at Black Jordan Green. Michael Ford is also one of our fighters, and one of our writers, and Adam Martin. So be sure to catch our content each and every week. So with that in mind, thank you everyone for taking some time out to listen to the show. Have a great evening and enjoy the rest of your week.